them at all. What's the little huzzy gone so long for, anyway? I'll fix her." Granny selected 3 letters, blew away the ashes, and tucked the envelopes inside her dress. "If I only knowed how to get at her," she muttered. She stared at the pie. "I guess you got to go back," she said, "and be et by me. Like as not I'll stall myself, for I got one already. But if David has got these fool things counted and misses any, and then finds that pie here, he'll 'spicion me. Yes, I got to take you back, and hurry my stumps at that." Granny arose with the pie, cast a lingering and covetous glance at the fireplace, stooped and took another letter, and then started down the drive. Just as she reached the bridge, she looked ahead and saw the Harvester coming up the levee. Instantly she shot the pie over the railing, and with a groan watched it strike the water and disappear. "Lord of love!" she gasped, sinking to the seat. "That was one of grandmother's willer plates that I promised Ruth. 'Tain't likely I'll ever see hide nor hair of it again. But they want no place to put it, and I dassent let him know I been up to the cabin. Maybe I can fetch a boy some day and hire him to dive for it. How long can a plate be in water and not get spiled, anyway? Now what'll I do? My head's all in a whirl. I'll bet my bosom is a sticking out with his letters till he'll notice and take them from me." She gripped her hands across her chest and sat staring at the Harvester as he stopped on the bridge. And seeing her attitude and distressed face, he sprang from the wagon. "Why, Granny, are you sick?" he cried anxiously. "Yes," gasped Granny Moreland. "Yes, David, I am. I'm a miserable woman. I never was in such a shape in all my days." "Let me help you to the cabin, and I'll see what I can do for you," offered the Harvester. "No, this is just out of your reach," said the old lady. I want to see Doctor Carey bad." "Are you strong enough to ride in, or shall I bring him?" "I can go. I can go as well as not, David, if you'll take me." "Let me run Betsy to the barn and get the girl's phaeton. The wagon is too rough for you. Are the pains in your chest dreadful?" "I don't know how to describe them," said Granny with perfect truth. The Harvester leaped into the wagon and caught up the lines. As he disappeared around the curve of the driveway, Granny snatched the letters from her dress front and thrust them deep into one of her stockings. "Now, drat you!" she cried. "Stick out all you please. Nobody will see you there." In a few minutes the Harvester helped her into the carriage and drove rapidly toward the city. "You needn't strain your critter," said Granny. "It's not so bad as that, David." "Is your chest any better?" "A sight better," said Granny. "Shaking up a little 'pears to do me good." "You never should have tried to walk. Suppose I hadn't been here, and you came the long way, too. I'll have a telephone run to your house so you can call me after this." Granny sat very straight suddenly. "My! Wouldn't that get away with some of my foxy neighbours?" she said. "Me to have a phone like they do, and be conversin' at all hours of the day with my son's folks and everybody? I'd be tickled to pieces, David." "Then I'll never dare do it," said the Harvester, "because I can't keep house without you." "Where's your own woman?" promptly inquired Granny. "She can't leave her people. Her grandmother is sick." "Grandmother your foot!" cried the old woman. "I've been hearing that song and dance from the neighbours, but you got to fool younger people than me on it, David. When did any grandmother ever part a pair of youngsters just married, for months at a clip? I'd like to cast my eyes on that grandmother. She's a new breed. I was as good a mother as 'twas in my skin to be, and I'd like to see a child of mine do it for me. And as for my grandchildren, it hustles some of them to recognize me passin' on the big road, 'specially if it's Peter's girl with a town beau." The Harvester laughed. The old lady leaned toward him with a mist in her eyes and a quaver in her voice, and asked softly, "Got ary friend that could help you, David?" The man looked straight ahead in silence. "Bamfoozle all the rest of them as much as you please, lad. but I stand to you in the place of your ma, and so I asked you plainly, got airy friend that could help?" "I can think of no way in which any one possibly could help me, dear," said the Harvester gently. "It is a matter I can't explain, but I know of nothing that any one could do." "You mean you're tight mouthed. You could tell me, just like you would your ma, if she was up and comin', but you can't quite put me in her place and spit it out plain. Now maybe I can help you. Is it her fault or yourn?" "Mine! Mine entirely." What a fool question! I might 'a' knowed it. I never saw a loviner, sweeter girl in these parts. I just worship the ground she treads on, and you, lad, you hain't had a heart in your body since first you saw her face. If I had the strength, I'd haul you out of this carriage and I'd hammer you meller, David Langston. What in the name of sense have you gone and done to the purty, lovin' child?" The Harvester's face flushed, but a line around his mouth whitened. "Loosen up!" commanded Granny. "I got some rights in this case that maybe you don't remember. You asked me to help you get ready for her, and I done what you wanted. You invited me to visit her, and I just loved her sweet, purty ways. You wanted me to shut up my house and come over for weeks to help take care of her, and I done it gladly, for her pain and your sufferin' cut me as if 'twas my livin' flesh and blood. So you can't shut me out now. I'm in with you and her to the end. What a blame fool thing have you gone and done, to drive away for months a girl that fair worshipped you?" "That's exactly the trouble, Granny," said the Harvester. "She didn't. She merely respected and was grateful to me, and she loved me as a friend, but I never was any nearer her husband than I am yours." "I've always knowed there was a screw loose somewhere," commented Granny. "And so you've sent her off to her worldly folks in a big, wicked city to get weaned away from you complete." "I sent her to let her see if absence would teach her anything. I had months with her here, and I lay awake at nights thinking up new plans to win her. I worked for her love as I never worked for bread, but I couldn't make it, so I let her go to see if separation would teach her anything." "Mercy me! Why, you crazy critter! The child did love you. She loved you 'nough and plenty. She loved you faithful and true. You was just the light of her eyes. I don't see how a girl could think more of a man. What in the name of sense were you expectin' months of separation to teach her but to forget you and mebby turn her to some one else?" "I hoped it would teach her what I call love means," explained the Harvester. "Why, you dratted popinjay! If ever in all my born days I wanted to take a man and just literally mop up the earth with him, it's right here and now. Absence teach her what you call love! Idiot! That's your job." "But Granny, I couldn't." "Wouldn't, you mean, no doubt. I hain't no manner of a notion in my head but that child, dependin' on you and grateful as she was, and tender and loving, and all sech as that, I hain't a doubt but she come to you plain and told you she loved you with all her heart. What more could you ast?" "That she understand what love means before I can accept what she offers." "You puddin' head! You blunderbuss!" cried Granny. "Understand what you mean by love! If you're goin' to bar a woman from bein' a wife till she knows what you mean by love, you'll stop about 9/10 of the weddings in the world, and t'other 10th will be women that no decent minded man would jine with." "Granny, are you sure?"
"Well, livin' through it, and up'ard of 70 years with other women, ort to teach me somethin'. The Girl offered you all any man needs to ast or get. Her foundations was laid in faith and trust. Her affections was caught by every lovin', tender, thoughtful thing you did for her, and everybody knows you did a plenty, David. I never see such a master hand at courtin' as you be. You had her lovin' you all any good woman knows how to love a man. All you needed to 'a' done was to take her in your arms and make her your wife, and she'd 'a' waked up to what you meant by love." "But suppose she never awakened?" Ah, bosh! Suppose water won't